Okay, welcome to the first in a series of short videos which we're going to use as part of our summer revision for anyone who's got a September exam in second year Human Metabolism and Endocrinology. Obviously I did a range of topics and I picked a few out basically randomly. First one being the life cycle of proteins. If you have a topic which you want me to look at which I haven't got in my list, let me know. I'll be happy to certainly consider it at least. Okay, so what do you need to do? You need to go through this tutorial. It's quite short. There are a number of tasks indicated which I will expect you to do. Now obviously I'm still at university for most of the summer, apart from the occasional holiday. You're scattered about the country or even in different parts of the world, so it's difficult for us to get together. So what we're going to do is have some virtual tutorials. To access them, you'll need to download a piece of software called Microsoft Lync ATTENDEE. I'll explain where to get that from a little bit later on. For each of these lectures there will be a virtual seminar. It'll be run during the working week, during normal working hours in the UK, and I'll probably give you a week's notice, and I will expect you to make time to attend. We can sort of negotiate among ourselves to a certain extent. Okay, so start off with the various things you need to do. I'll go back to the lecture and think about the learning outcomes. There's a sort of higher level learning outcome there, which was to briefly describe the mechanisms by which metabolic pathways are regulated, of which protein degradation and synthesis is one, but there were other ones. And as I always say, in a full answer you should be thinking about a little bit of context. So you may want to mention in a, say, a 10 or 15 mark question other mechanisms, just to provide a little contrast. I always recommend, of course, doing a helicopter view. That is a view of the topic which would allow you to explain it in plain language to an intelligent person who doesn't have a science background. Once you've got that in place, you can then start to develop your detailed understanding. Right, I mentioned the tutorials. I will be listing a number of tasks as part of this tutorial, which I will have this video tutorial, which I will have expected you have done by the time we have the virtual meeting. And the first one is to define the term protein half-life. I'm sure you've come across half-life before, and as a hint, a graph always helps with this definition. Okay, so why do we synthesize and why do we degrade proteins? We don't keep a little sort of larder of them when we want them. If we want to use a protein, we make it, and then typically we degrade it often quite quickly afterwards in a cell. So why is the balance of rates between synthesis and degradation needed? Now, the first thing we're going to ask you to do here is contextualize these terms. So look at synthesis and degradation, and balance between the rates as well, and place them in the context of maintaining an appropriate concentration of proteins and enzymes. Why do cells need to do this? Have a think about it. These things you've seen in red are tasks I expect you to complete before the virtual seminar. Okay, it's a good video to have a look at. Something we had a look at in the notes. There's a clip from it showing a protein with a growing tail of ubiquitin, which you may remember is associated with degradation. So have a review of the video, and then write definitions for the terms on the left. Definitions in the context of protein degradation. How long do they last? Some last quite a long while. Hemoglobin, for example, some last only a few minutes. There are predictors, N-terminal amino acid presence and presence of something called a pest factor. So I'll review your notes and again write definitions for these terms. In particular, make sure you can identify an N-terminal amino acid and you know what the letters pest stand for. They aren't always obvious, as you may remember, especially not the E. Okay, so here's a short amino acid sequence. What is the N-terminal amino acid sequence here? If it's present in a protein, what does that indicate? If it's absent, what does that indicate? Okay, one of the best ways to develop your understanding of a topic is to read around it. You really can't just rely rather on the lecture notes. As I mentioned very often, of the 200 hours of learning expected in a typical module, probably 150 hours are done in your own time. Now that should involve writing things like your own notes about lectures, and which will involve often reading around the topic. So there's some material there on ubiquitin, which is well worth reviewing, and you may want to have a look in the textbooks, either real textbooks, physical textbooks rather, or those present in resources like eBury. There's a couple of questions to answer based on the information mostly in this web page, but I say read around it a bit. If we delete a pest sequence, how will that affect a protein's half-life? And how does protein folding factors hide pest? And why are they important in managing the rate of protein degradation? Okay, bring it all together. Draw a mind map or some other visual aid or some other way to summarise this knowledge. That's the sort of extension of your helicopter view definition, I guess. And here's something I'm going to recommend a lot throughout these sessions. Devise some short questions in this case to review what you know about protein degradation. Now, to do that, you're going to have to go through your knowledge and parcel it up into discrete topics. And then for each of those questions, write a model answer. I will be posting the exam that was done earlier on in the year, which will include both the questions and the model answers. Okay, as mentioned, we will be having virtual seminars, so you'll need to download this piece of software. It's free, and it's reasonably big. It's about 61 megabytes, so it'll take a little while to download, especially if you've got a slow connection. What will happen is when it's set up, I will send you a link to allow you to access it. I'll probably also do a video on how to use it as well. I'll let you know the details of the seminars as they come up. So I'll let you know probably a week before. I'll place them on Blackboard and email them to you as well. And we'll have a get together virtually and see how it works. Okay, there we are. That's the first one. That's all for now. If you work hard on this, I have no doubt you'll be successful in September.